All right. We're here, Black and Blue Podcast. We are on episode 2. We're going to be talking about the white belt mentality. My name is Travis. I'm the owner-operator of Dark Horse Martial Arts here in Canmore. With me today, we got Emmett. And this time, we got video. It was requested that we have some video on this, and people want to put faces to the voices, so here you go.
And seeing us, like, obviously that's you can see why people would want to see this.
Yeah, right? We're definitely going to attract a much wider audience. We're going to hit like 3 people this
much weirder audience. That's what you said, right?
Probably. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess let's just quickly jump into it. Like, I don't know, I was pretty excited on the first episode, and it's been doing okay.
Yeah, it's been doing great.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to talk about the beginner's mindset, right?
Yeah. We're going to be looking at the white belt mentality. If you see me, I have my phone. It's just for my notes. I know that Emmett has it rested on his Dark Horse class over there. So, yeah, just pretend that they're not there. Let's look into learning to embrace failure and being the underdog. So, learning to embrace failure. What does that mean to you?
Wow. Yeah, I think so. You know, the basis of this podcast is that I'm a blue belt. I got my blue belt last year, and man, that first year of training is, if you can't embrace failure and understand that failure is learning, you're going to quit for sure. I think everyone goes in thinking they know something about how to fight or something about jiu-jitsu, and you find out pretty quick that you don't.
100%. And I've been in the game like 12, 13 years or something like that. And I've been coaching since 2015. So, damn, almost 10 years. 10 years started the club in 2015. And I've seen so many people that just can't take that mindset, can't get that embrace failure. They just haven't had that fail part of their life.
Yeah.
And they just burn out.
Yeah.
It takes a special mentality to go, you know what? I'm cool with getting crushed. I'm cool with like not being the best on the mats. And I think once you take that mindset, you're like, I'm okay with it. You start to learn so much quicker.
You know what? I think part of it is like, I think people maybe, and let me know if you think this is right. I think people think of fighting as different than other things. Like, I remember we had a young kid come in and start, and he'd maybe done 2 classes. He was so frustrated. And I said to him, like, hey man, you know, if you were learning piano, would you expect to come into your second class and just like play a sonata, or I don't know what music is called, but like something like that?
Talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah,
like, I would have just said play a Mozart piece or something.
Like, and it's like, clearly not. You know, no one would expect to do that. But similarly, you can't expect to come into a jiu-jitsu gym and just be like, well, I fucked everyone up.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm good, ready for my black belt.
It's crazy to see that though. You see that in a lot. You see that in old, young. You see that in everybody.
Yeah,
where they're like, I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this, and I'm gonna wreck that guy. And one of the things is
did I do that?
You came in pretty hot.
Came in pretty hot.
Yeah. A lot of people do, but you also came in, and it was like, really like, I'm going to go and I'm not going to lose. I'm going to like, I don't want to get injured, but that's kind of what causes injuries.
Right.
Going really hard.
Yeah.
And then Danny was still around when you came in. And he saw you like rip up like another like littler white belt.
Right? In the kids class, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And he was like, all right. And he like gives me this little look. He's like, yeah. I was like, just go control him. Don't wreck him. Don't wreck him. I like the guy.
Yeah.
So he went, and I think he just controlled you for like, I think it was like 2 minutes, and then you're like, I'm out, and like you're just exhausted.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But you learn. You really did learn, and you learn to embrace it. And it's beautiful to see you teach it to
Oh,
the
thanks.
newer
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, you I think you have to kind of like get over that hump maybe, you know, of oh, okay, I'm not going to beat anybody. Like yeah, maybe I can beat like brand new people, but I'm not there's 150 people here. I'm not going to beat almost any of them.
yeah,
So, yeah.
I think that, and like just that realization. I think that realization either makes or breaks you.
Yeah.
And like it
Mm.
breaks a lot of people.
And then you never see them again?
Yeah. They're
Really?
just gone. And you're just like, man, what happened to that kid? He showed potential. And then like you get talking and it's like, well, a lot of the color belts had to like step up their game rather than just like letting people play and letting people work, which is a great way to show like what we do.
Yeah.
They take that as a win. Like when a white belt taps me out, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe I tapped out that guy. I tapped out the coach." And
I don't
like,
think you've ever let me do that.
I don't let many people do that. No. But like, I let you in your blue belt test.
Oh yeah.
I think there's
yeah.
a triangle.
Yeah, sure. One time.
Yeah. Everybody gets one. I'm like Spider-Man. Please don't take us out, Family Guy. But yeah, it's one of those things that you like let them play and like you let them build up their confidence, let them see what it's about, and you just kind of have to start stepping up your game inch by inch, foot by foot, and then it's interesting because it breaks people, and you're like, I really want you to succeed, but you can't go into everything thinking that you're gonna win everything.
Is there anything, so kind of like two questions, I guess. One is like, is there anything is that's like your go-to thing to say to people to make them kind of click and understand? Like I tried the metaphor of music, right? Like is there something that you say to people that make them kind of get that?
Man, being in this game, like, and coaching, I was a 3-stripe white belt when I started coaching.
Yeah.
That's when we started the club.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Since then, I've learned to, like, I usually ask someone what their interest is, like what their other hobbies are.
Right.
And then we can play around with, I have a vast amount of like tidbit knowledge. I'm
Totally.
like, I'm the guy that goes on Wikipedia and hits random article and that just consumes me for a night.
Right.
So I have a lot of like little tidbits. I suck like in depth in a lot of stuff, but I usually have a little bit of knowledge and everything.
Yeah.
So whether like you're coming in and you're like book focused and you're like, oh, well, you know how like there's different varieties of novels and like you can go through like a Goosebumps book and then it kind of progresses to like Harry Potter, which is like
right.
and then or like The Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings, and you're starting to get more in depth. And then depending on like how far in they are, like you can be like, now like once you get to your black belt, you're looking at like
War and Peace or something.
Yeah, you're looking at something that has so many different levels to it.
Right.
You're like, oh man. But you just give them little tidbits and you have to kind of put it in a way that they see the world.
Right.
I used to relate a lot of it to mechanics because I'm a former mechanic, right? I did that for like 16 or 17 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still building that truck in my garage. But like I used to relate everything to that. I'm like, yeah, you know, like with a car, how it needs like 3 things to run.
But you got to find the metaphor that makes sense to them.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know anything about a car other than I put that key in and drive. And then you're like, oh. So you have to be like, okay, what's your hobby? What do you do?
Right.
How do we go through this?
And the other thing I was going to ask about that is, was there one person that you remember as being like the worst case of not getting over the hump of understanding the value of failure?
You. No. No. There's been a couple where you're just like, Man, you just need to see like failing is a good thing because you can build yourself up.
And is that because they came in from other martial arts? Because
Some
I was gonna kick off our episode today. I brought up this quote that says, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few." And that made me think. I know in the past you've mentioned like you've seen people come in from like karate or like whatever, and then it's like, well, I'm an expert in this. I should be an expert in that too.
karate is one of them. Karate, we've had everyone from like a 12-year-old black belt,
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm awesome. And he got submitted by like one of our white belt 12-year-old girls.
Wait, he was a 12-year-old?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
He is a 12-year-old black belt
Yeah.
in karate.
Okay.
And one of our girls like just guillotined him because
Yeah.
he like tried to bum rush, like double leg, but like head on the outside and all that. And she just choked him.
Yeah.
And like it humbled him enough for like a month, and then like he started like getting a little bit better, and then he went into a tournament right away because he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that gold. And I was like, hey, I'll be behind you and I'll be coaching you.
Yeah.
But you got to understand that there's people that have been doing it for like 2 years at
Yeah.
your level.
Yeah.
Like and he wanted to jump up a belt level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he got humbled really quick, and then I didn't see him after that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was just like, the last time I saw him, it looked like he was doing like some miscreant stuff on the streets here.
No way.
Yeah, like with a little gang of teenagers kind of thing. I was like, and not like he saw that I saw him.
Yeah.
And like he immediately put up his hood and like scurried off. I was like,
Whoa,
they were doing
really?
something to the back of that building.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, but that was one of the ones that sucks though. I hate seeing the potential of someone that you see them, they hit a potential in another area of life, but they can't take that and cross it over to jiu-jitsu when you think that they should be able to very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the deal.
And so last time we talked also a little bit about I think one of the things we covered last time was, you know, what at least I was mentioning like what I say to beginners, to like the 2 or 3 tips that I give to beginners. And like I know one of the things you were talking about covering today was like survival positions, you know, grips, like what are the things that you try and ingrain in beginners that to make them kind of give them what they need to get through that first few months, you know?
And I can guarantee you almost everyone in the club that hears this will be like, all he says to do is breathe. But
Yeah.
breathing is like so important, like learning how to like ever so slightly get on your side rather than being flat on your back. And I talk to them about that extensively. It's like, just get on your back, or like get off your back, get onto your side a little bit, then you can breathe. Take that second to like recover your like emotions and recover yourself so that you can move through it.
Yeah. I rolled with a fairly new guy tonight, and it's crazy seeing the difference between someone who's been here a long time and someone who is kind of just starting, and the struggle, like the full on, like just like muscling the whole time, like, and looking for submissions from
places that there's no
submissions, and just like like shoving against your face like this, and just like it's like, dude, you're not doing anything. And it's crazy to see that like full on 100% pedal to the metal the whole time, and they don't get that like I think like wait for an opportunity rather than just like struggle.
Yeah. And you see that quite a bit. Like it's actually very rare that you see the person that is like, I'm gonna approach this with calm and I'm gonna just like try and do what people are telling me rather than being like, because it's so uncomfortable. Like my big, and like that, I guess that leads into another one, and it's like, I don't know where I heard it. I don't think I'm smart enough to have come up with it on my own. But it's that being comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Right.
And I say that a lot. And people are like, oh, I'm supposed to be uncomfortable. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're grappling another person that is trying to choke you out,
Yeah.
rip off an arm, pop your leg, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a comfortable sport.
Yeah.
Sweating, like sweat alone
Yeah.
turns off a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Like,
for sure.
like if I haven't, like if I taught class and then I miss like the first 3 rolls like of open mat after class, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
I don't want to get into
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
jump into that. You guys are all sweaty and warm and having fun, and I'm dry.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump like I do.
Those are the nights when you wear your tuxedo, right?
Yeah,
To the
yeah.
gym. Yeah.
That's when like you double up your gi and like you wear a hoodie. Like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna do this now. But,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's so many things that make you go, "Oh, this is an uncomfortable thing," but people don't realize that. People think like, oh well, no, this is fine, and then you're like, this is horrible, and they instantly like flip a switch.
Mm-hmm. I do think, and we should do an episode about, we've been talking about that for a while, like lessons from jujitsu that translate to life,
Yeah.
or to like business or whatever. But I do really feel like living through the uncomfortable situations in the gym and being like, okay, this 200-pound guy is like, has his, like arm across my throat, and living through that makes it kind of like turns down the volume a little bit on things in
Everything
like
else in
everyday life. You're just sort of like, I'm not getting choked right now. So
everything else in life becomes bearable
yeah.
when you've had the 250-pound sweaty dude
Yeah.
wrecking you for
Yeah.
even if it's only 6 minutes. That's gonna last you a week
Yeah.
of like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. You know what? Yeah, give me that extra paperwork. I don't care.
That's why, like, when I'm the 200-pound guy against the one stripe white belt, I feel like I'm doing them a favor. You know?
Yeah. You're helping them, and that was like actually one of the coolest things about when I was like doing morning classes. Like you would do the class and you was like, or like you just roll,
Yeah.
and then you go back to work and you're like,
Yeah.
not bad,
Totally.
I'm okay. Like
yeah, totally.
it's like having a good workout mid work day.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like if you have like a workout where and I don't work out that much, but like when I was like prepping for a fight,
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to the gym and just like throw a heavy bag around and punch and kick like a heavy bag for like 45 minutes straight, be exhausted, and then be like, go back to work and be like, you know what, I'm good. I got all that like negative horrible energy out of me in a workout.
Yeah.
And I think jujitsu rolling just like takes that and dials that up and makes it go, oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I definitely like the feeling of like, going to work and you're like, well, probably no one did something like that other than me around here last night, like, what about one of the things you had on the agenda for today's podcast is talking about and I'm trying to think as I'm asking you about this, but embarrassing moments as a beginner.
For others or for myself?
What do you got?
Oh man. There's been a lot, especially like being a beginner coach, actually.
Yeah.
Like there is our very first class, we knew nothing. Like I knew like the blue belt curriculum, like that everyone runs through. So that's what we were teaching, and we were doing mount escapes, but we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And like we let it like the students take over.
Yeah.
Like at the end of class, and we're just like, okay, well, and we got cake and everything. And we're like, yeah, we just opened. Here's a giant cake. Nobody ate the cake.
Why?
Everyone was just like, sweet, that was an awesome free class. Bye. And they just took off.
Oh yeah.
So then it was like me, like myself, Rich, and like our wives, I think.
Oh wow.
And
yeah.
we had this giant cake. It was like half the size of this table.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we're like, oh. But like some of the most embarrassing was just like you're sitting there and like you start teaching a move And then you're like, oh, I'm teaching this entirely wrong. And
Yeah.
the good thing is I'm like, I know enough to know that like people make mistakes, and I'm the guy to own up to it. I'm just like, mid class, I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This isn't the way this move is supposed to go. I screwed up a while ago, and I didn't catch myself.
Do you remember what the move was?
It was just a guard pass.
Okay.
It was like just a knee slice guard pass, and I was like, why is this knee still in my way? Because I was putting my knee on across the other ways, almost like a tabletop, but they had a knee shield in. I was like, this isn't working. I'm like, well, I'm just
man.
I was like a brand new blue belt.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And then they're like, they didn't know any better. They didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
They're like, you're the head guy. You know what's going on. I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I screwed up a long time ago. So we're just going to like quickly rep like the actual way. And then we're going to get into sparring. And yeah, so that was like just starting out coaching embarrassment of having to be like mid-class. And that happened a couple times.
That's probably not a big deal, but
no,
it's probably not as embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like they probably weren't like, what the?
Yeah, none of them were.
Yeah.
It was way more to me.
What about people that you've had in the class that had embarrassing moments?
We've had a person full on rip out their entire crotch, and they only had spats on.
Ooh.
So like the whole crotch of their spats, just like whoosh.
And no undies under there or what?
No, nothing. So they did like the poop walk to like the change room, and then like I think it was like I had to like go and get them another pair or something. Yeah, I was like, "What's up?" And they're like, and they explained it. I was like, "Oh, crap." Another one was like someone like straight up puked. Like,
in like their first class?
It was like their second class, and they were going as hard as possible. Like they were one of those guys that like they just saw red, bro.
Yeah.
And they were like going hard. And then all I heard was like this, like, because I was like rolling like just down from them, and I heard this. I was like, "What was that?" I looked over, and like he missed the guy that he's rolling with by like that much, like, and it was like projectile, and like it was like a cylinder of puke. I was like, "What did you have?" He's like, "Oh, I went for wings and stuff," and I was like, "Dude, like when?" He's like, "Right before." You know what? Actually, Carter, he did the same thing. He went for wings or something. Like right before class. He didn't puke, but he was pale. He looked like he was gonna like toss it, but he's like, "Oh, I don't feel good," and all this other stuff. It's like, well, why? He's like, "Well, I went and ate like a bucket of wings." It's like, well, what did you expect was going to go on, bud?
I'm going to eat a bucket of wings and then get someone to crush my belly and chest.
Yeah. I think it was like a neon belly class or something. I was like, this is horrible, dude. Horrible idea.
Yeah, that's not a good move.
What about you? What do you got?
For embarrassing moments, I definitely feel what you're saying about like even last week, I was like, remember I showed up and on Thursday and the advanced class was not on. And so I'm like, oh, I'll help out with the blue belt test guys. And I'm like, there's a few that I do know, like a few of those moves from the blue belt test that I'm totally like, I could do those things in my fucking sleep.
Yeah.
Like for sure. But a couple of them, I'm like, whoa, what's that? Like, and so I'm like trying to teach it to them. And I'm like, maybe we should just watch the video together, guys. Like, they're just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, this guy's a moron.
Aren't you a blue belt? And you're like, don't worry about it.
And like the blues like just coming off my belt as I'm rolling. And it's like, hey, wait a second, that blue belt is fake.
You're a fraud. Hey, look, everybody, he's a fraud.
Just run out. Yeah. You're like, I've never seen that guy before.
Like, watch him. Like, who's that guy? Oh man.
So I definitely feel that. I think one thing I think that I can't say I was deeply embarrassed about it, but I did it really only ever happened once. And I think I must have had other shit going on in my life or something, but It was just like rolling. It was in the old gym. And it was well before I got my blue belt. I was probably 6 months in or something. And like I was just getting tapped. And I was like, then I was rolling with like one of the guys that's like my age, same sort of rank or whatever. And he just tapped me again. And I was just like, fuck. And I just like, was like, fuck this, man. And like, I think I just changed and left. And then I was like, but that was a moment, I think, with that beginner mentality thing where I was like, why am I getting upset about that? Like, but it took kind of like, I don't know. It's like when you see someone driving, like one time, I don't know why this sticks out in my memory, but I saw a lady stop at a 4-way stop, and the guy who got there slightly after her went before her, and she like did this out the window, like fuck you, like that. And it's like, why are you getting that upset about that, man?
Is it worth it?
And so like, in that moment, I was like, that's kind of lame that I got so upset about that. Like, that doesn't matter at all. So I don't know. That was an embarrassing moment that relates to the topic here,
I think that's very fair too. Like, it's one of those things that you just sit there and it just wells up in you, like getting tapped over and over. I've had those times like where I like not really I didn't get mad on the mats or anything, but I have had those nights like when I first started, I just went out to my truck and I sat there for like 45 minutes. Just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why? Like, I got like repeatedly tapped and just beaten up. I had a black eye and like a bloody nose, maybe. Probably a bloody nose. I used to always get bloody noses. But I was sitting there and I would just sit there for 45 minutes being like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Why do I come to get the shit kicked out of me?
Yeah.
And so I've had like that reflection.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? There's like so few moments in my life where I'm like, this is worth it. That like after reflecting, I'm like, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it to keep coming. Worth it to. And like, this is old school jujitsu. It's not like the fun, happy stuff like that we show beginners here. It was just like you walk onto the mats and you get the shit kicked out of you, and then
you're like going to someone's garage to get beat up.
Pretty much. And yeah, it just made me reflect a lot. And I was just like, in my brain, I was like, it's worth it. Do it. Keep going.
Have you ever heard like any beginners come in and like just kind of express something like that to you where it's in a memorable way that you're like, that they come in and they're like, you know what? I just realized it's worth it. Like, you ever get that messaging from people?
I do. I get it from, it's random because it's usually like the quietest people that come up to me and like, you know what? I just had this weird revelation, and Jonah is one of them. Like, he's pretty quiet. And he was sitting off and he came up, he's like, man, thank you for putting all the effort into us because it's worth it. And I just sat there. I was just like, oh,
that's
like,
nice.
You're such a good kid. Like, it's amazing that people can see that. I'm the worst for compliments. Like, someone gives me a compliment, I'm like, no, I'm not. No. And then he said that and I was like, damn. That felt like it was like
that's awesome, man.
So that, and then like, I don't know, you get kids too. I like kids because kids like don't have filters yet.
Right.
They don't care. They're just like, but they'll tell you like, you either like did a terrible job or they had an amazing class.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So that'd be the other way. But yeah, like there's been a couple where some people have come up and said thank you, or this something there clicked, and that just changed everything.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like Levi.
Yeah.
He was like at a crazy plateau, and I kept on like trying to give him little tidbits and stuff, and then I went through like seated like guard and gave him some stuff from there.
Yeah.
And since then, the bugger's been using it, and he's been using it like very well.
Nice.
And like it just like got him over that little bit of a hump that he was
Mhm.
just sitting, and he just started like, you see his trajectory.
Yeah,
Just-
plateaus are a real thing, man.
yeah.
Plateaus are a real thing. And I think like that's something that beginners can, just knowing that you're not, you know what, sometimes it's like just knowing you're not the only one. Like, yeah, you're going to go 4 months feeling like you haven't progressed. And then like you'll, for me, it was that, technical mount thing.
Oh yeah.
Like going from like mount to technical mount to,
Like a
back to back take. And it's like, oh, that was like my first like pathway, like that I'm like, oh, that's a progression that I understand. And they just happen all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah. And then
I remember that. I remember that class, and that was one of the advanced classes that you're like, hey, what about this? And like,
right, yeah,
you
yeah.
started to like, since then you've started to spider web off of that, and
Yeah.
like you've seen the other routes that it can go, and like
to like north south and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
and
Yeah.
like arm bars and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty, and it's cool.
I still don't finish anything, but
Yeah, that's just the next plateau. But that, and I think that's the cool thing. Like, I'm just gonna like spout off about this podcast, but that's the cool thing. Like, we have the blue belt
Mhm.
mentality and seeing like that
Yeah.
plateau, and then the black belt that's been watching this whole time, that can be like, yeah, that was
Mhm.
actually a really cool experience where you see that little like that aha
Yeah, the
moment,
little aha moments,
the light
yeah.
bulb went off, and you're like, boom, and then you just start hitting all these extra little things, and then you started looking at the game vastly different.
Mhm.
You s-
Oh, totally different. You know, Dave, Big Dave,
Yeah.
who unfortunately we haven't seen him here in a while because he's injured. But he was like making a joke one day, but it was something in the advanced class that I don't even remember. I might have been Carter teaching, and he showed this thing, and Dave was like, I feel like I can see colors. like it was like, you know, he in that moment had that, and you could see that he was joking, putting it in a jokey way, but like,
Yeah.
he was like, oh, I'm gonna do all kinds of shit with this. Like it's like like you said, a spider web. Like you, from that moment, you get that spider web out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, for throwing out like metaphors or things like that, it's like when you get that crack in your windshield. And it just goes,
I thought you were gonna say when you get some crack, and then
oh yeah.
whoa, now I can see colors.
You saying that because I'm colorblind?
I'm saying it because we did crack right before the podcast.
we are close enough to BAM, and
Yeah.
I've heard lots of stories about
Yeah. You know, so that quote that I was saying about the beginner mentality versus the expert mentality, like being closed. So that same book, I think it's called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And in that book, the guy talks about Suzuki. He talks about gaining knowledge being like walking through fog, where you expect it to be like you just turn on the shower and get knowledge. But in reality, it's like you're taking a long walk through the fog, and then when you get home, you find out that you're soaking wet.
Yeah.
And it's like you didn't even realize that you were learning, you know?
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing. I hope that all the like white belts, blue belts, anyone out there that's at a plateau and like they're like, man, I'm just gonna quit,
Mm-hmm.
understands that you're gonna hit something. Something's just gonna come at you.
Yeah.
Whether it's in a class, a seminar, maybe a tournament, you know, just
a video.
Yeah, a video, something that it'll just click, and it will turn everything on its head, and you'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
and it's like that, like you just sit there, and you're like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then it hits, and then, yeah, like Dave, I can see color.
Yeah.
It's like, you can, and you can like get there. It's no set path.
Yeah.
For anyone.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about that too is like, well, one thing that's interesting about that is it's not necessarily like a move. It can be something like, you know, I was talking about today about, going back to technical mount, but like where you can sit there. The knowledge that you don't have to like move from move to move to move to move, like the knowledge that you can just hold a thing and be like, I can just hold this and breathe because I'm in control. But like those things, like get to your side, create some space, hold on to the move, breathe, like these are things that take many, many, many classes to like start to get the hang of, like
Totally.
they're not moves, they're pieces of knowledge,
Yeah. It's like little pieces of a giant puzzle.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, how can I connect? Like, your fundamentals is what everyone does, unless you're an absolute psychopath. Like, you make the border, right? You make the border of the puzzle first, because that's the easiest bits.
Yeah.
So that's like your bridges, that's your shrimps, that's your mount escapes. And then you start to fill in the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And like, once you start to get even more and more involved, you start to go, what if like this puzzle can go with that puzzle?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get those ones that like, have you seen that puzzle where like the guy figured out like all these like 4 puzzles were all the same cuts? So he took like a horse.
Really? No.
He took the horse's head and put it on this train kind of thing. And like he made like this crazy collage, but it worked.
Right.
And that's like just taking, oh yeah, that over there would work right here.
My jujitsu right now is like I just put a bunch of pieces of puzzle in a blender and hit go.
Yours is that big cube where it's like, put the triangle in the triangle.
And then it didn't go, so I just smashed.
Start hitting it. The Homer Simpson thing.
Yeah. Yes, I did it. I don't know if you want to get into the quote that you had in our notes here about.
Yeah. So it's just one that I always love to reflect on. Again, I suck with names, but it's a black belt is just a white belt that never quit.
Right.
And I love it. I always think of my own mentality as try to look at it as a white belt.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard once you've been doing it so long. But the way that I look at that quote is, don't close yourself off to any information coming in.
Yeah.
White belts, teenagers, everyone has like a different view on jujitsu, and anyone can give you a little tip or a little piece of advice.
Totally.
And like our blue belt test has evolved. Like all the moves, they always evolve. Every single like time, there's just little details that I'll like add in or take away. And that's not me doing the reps. That's watching like the brand new white belts repping the blue belt and then seeing how they like shortcut stuff or how they go about it.
Yeah.
And then it's just different body types and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. And like blue belt demoing is like, yeah, I did it, and yeah, it should be hard, and yeah, it should do all this other stuff, but it shouldn't be stagnant.
Right.
And like looking at it through a white belt's eyes, and you're like, oh yeah, that was actually kind of cool what you did there. Then I steal it and say I did it and thought about it.
Yeah.
They don't know, but yeah, I totally stole it.
But I like that idea of, I think you know that black belt is a white belt who never quit. That's exactly that same thing as walking through the fog, where it's like you just keep going, and then one day you're a black belt.
Yeah, and it's true, and it's just put in the time.
Yeah.
Consistency is another big one.
I think also, to what you would probably say, is have a plan. Like you can't just show up and be like, I'm gonna smash.
Like for your first little bit, just show up.
Yeah, just show up.
Like you don't know anything.
Yeah.
But if you understand how to game plan or plan for what you want to work on, do it.
Yeah.
Once you get a little bit of experience under you, 100%.
Yeah, have a plan.
Have a plan. Write out goals. Write out like short-term goals and all levels. I want to work on this week. I want to work on this month.
Yeah.
I want to get to proficiency in this like area by 6 months,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then like I don't really like tell people to put goals as in like a belt, like, oh, I want to be a purple belt by this time, just because belts, I mean, they mean so many different things to so many different people.
Mhm.
Whereas a goal of I want to get better in this area,
Right.
or I want to like beat up that purple belt by this time, or I want to get, or I don't want to like tap out
Yeah.
5 times, I'm going to tap out
Yeah.
4 times,
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like, and just understanding that and put the work in.
Yeah, that's interesting about belts kind of having meaning but not really having meaning.
Yeah,
I think it's a good sort of like overarching goal, you know, and
definitely.
but it's, yeah, without those specific sort of milestones that you choose yourself. That I think like I think that's the other thing that I would say to a brand new person is like one of the exciting things about getting further on in the journey is you start to be like, this is what my jujitsu is, you know, like it's totally different from his or hers or whoever's. And it's because, like, you know, you said, that's my body type, my age, my temperament, my whatever
Injuries.
yeah, whatever style I bring to jujitsu, you know.
Squish.
Yeah, squish, just squish. But it's cool. You get to have your own style that you own. You know, like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it's super, and like obviously you see it much more in highly advanced practitioners, but like when you start to feel your own style coming through, you're like, oh, maybe that's what I'm all about. You know?
Totally. And like, just going off of that, like, my style has evolved so much. Like, when I first started, I loved the gi. I hated no gi.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a no gi guy. I would live and die by the triangle. Like, I went after like nothing else but triangles.
Right.
I got really good at them. But then like I think I took a seminar on like heel hooks as like a white belt, and they're like, yeah, it's only for color belts. But at the time we asked, and Brian Bird was like, yeah, you guys can come in. So we went in, and we learned like this dark magic, and we're just like, whoa,
Nice.
we can wreck people with this. So then from like that day on, that's what got me into leg locks and like heavy into heel hooks. Like I was doing like straight leg locks and stuff like that, but that one would like set me on the course of I'm gonna master all leg locks and I'm gonna make this my thing.
Did you say you liked the gi or not, or didn't like the gi?
I loved the gi.
You
I
loved the
loved
gi,
the gi at the very beginning. I liked how you could control, and I liked like lapel grips and
hold
stuff
on
like that.
for dear life.
Yeah. And like there's so many different setups that you could do off of it. And also like I have the Goku gi. Like all my gis are orange when I compete.
Right.
So that was just another little added bonus. But yeah, then I started wanting to do more and more leg locks, and it seemed no-gi was the place to play with leg locks.
Well, I think that's a pretty good segue to let everyone know that our next podcast is going to be all about the great debate, gi versus no gi.
100%, and it's going to be a good one.
I wish I could say I had a strong opinion, but I just go where the wind takes me, man. So
not far,
not very far. Yeah, you're gonna need some pretty strong wind. So
yeah. So on that note, tune in next time for the great debate of gi versus no gi. We might touch on some of that eco jiu-jitsu stuff that's been going around. There's a big debate, so we'll touch on that next time.
I'll do a little more.
Yeah, we'll get Emmett doing the research, and I'll just like spout off terrible opinions.
That's our formula. So
yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, other than that, until next time, this is the Black and Blue Podcast. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks for tuning in.